Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. Today on the show, we have Darcy McKee, Navajo County Public Health Services District Program Manager for Tobacco and Chronic Disease Prevention. Welcome to the show, Darcy.
Thanks.
I'm excited you came out here.
Thank you.
It's nice to get this information out. So I want to start off by, what do you do for the county exactly? I know I've mentioned it there, but more in depth.
So we are a program of three. So
Okay.
I'm the program manager, and then I have two people under me. And our job is to really educate all of Navajo County on tobacco and the dangers of tobacco, the harmful effects of tobacco, secondhand smoke. We work in our schools, we work in our communities, and then the flip side of that is we also do chronic disease self-management. So we have programs that are studied out of Stanford, and we're licensed to provide those trainings, and then we go into targeted areas throughout Navajo County to offer the chronic disease program.
How do you find these targeted areas?
So chronic disease self-management is for anybody with a chronic condition. So that's an easy target. It can be, you can be a caregiver. You don't have to have the chronic conditions. If you're a caregiver of somebody who has a health issue and you're taking care of them, you can attend the class because it helps you build your skills. It helps you understand what they're going through. So we go into senior centers, senior living centers, homes, areas in that nature. We just finished up a great big class at Juniper Ridge, which is a gated community for seniors or retired individuals that are 55 and over. We work with chapter houses out on the reservation, hospitals. We also work off of a referral base from doctors' offices and local clinics.
Now, chronic disease self-management, what does that really, focus on for these people? I know it's the older community, but what are they getting out of it, or what are the points that you're hitting through that class?
So with chronic disease self-management, it kind of encompasses anything. And one of the problems that we have is we talk to an individual who maybe is diabetic, and they'll say, well, I don't have a chronic condition, I'm diabetic. So the biggest step in what we do is educating them on what is a chronic condition. A chronic condition is anything that affects the quality of your life and your health. So it could be arthritis, it could be chronic pain, it could be chronic headaches, it could be diabetes, it could be cancer. So it can be minimal, that's easily managed, to very extreme, which has long-term effects on your body. So we go out, we talk to them about the services we provide. So it's a 6 weeks program. During the 6 weeks, we talk to you about setting small goals and small steps to achieve what you want to give you back the quality in your life, as well as then building toolboxes to learn how to deal with pain, how to breathe better. And I know that sounds funny because we breathe every day, but there's really a process to learning to better breathe to help control and manage a chronic condition or the chronic pain that you're receiving from the condition. Learning to just pace yourself, set smaller steps, rest in between. So it really is the umbrella of chronic conditions, and it talks about several different steps in between.
Now, with these chronic conditions, some of them can come from smoking, correct? Is that why they're kind of linked together?
They are. So many of them can come from smoking. And a lot of people don't realize the effects that tobacco or smoking have on you. So we don't focus just on smoking. We focus on tobacco. So that could be chewing tobacco, snuff, cigars, pipes, not just a cigarette smoking. And then the effects that has on your body. And for instance, one of the things that people usually don't think about is when you smoke, it's going to affect your lungs or your throat possibly, but smoking also affects the retina of your eye. So it can affect your eyesight, it affects your taste and your smell, that sort of stuff as well. So it really links a lot of them together. A lot of chronic conditions stem, if you were a smoker, you probably have had it longer. And it also makes the chronic condition kind of a double hitter. So you're not only working on trying to quit smoking or manage that addiction in your life, but then controlling the disease by not relying back on the tobacco. Because a lot of times there's the myth behind it that when you're stressed, it's easy to smoke because it helps calm you down. Or I'm in a lot of pain, but if I smoke, it'll help ease the pain. And that's a myth behind it. What you're doing is you're removing yourself from a stressful situation, giving you a chance to settle down and calm down by deep breathing, which is inhaling. So that's where the myth comes into it. And so it's really combining the two things for helping you quit smoking, which is our cessation services, and then helping you manage that chronic disease and understand what those skills are that you're doing that relate back to tobacco use.
So, and this is all dealing with people who already have the issues and stuff like that. Do you do anything pre?
We do. We offer a lot of prevention. So some of the prevention stuff we do, again, we go into our senior centers, our senior living, chapter houses out on the reservation to just provide education, to talk with the individuals, tell them about what we offer and what's out there so that they're aware of what's going on. Because we all know, just like wearing a seatbelt, we know that wearing a seatbelt is good and we know that it saves lives, but why do we wear it? So we had to be educated on that, and that's what we do, the same thing. We educate individuals on what could come. We look at their lifestyle and we give them tools, just small steps to help them change that lifestyle to prevent the onset of a chronic condition. That could be eating smaller portions to help with obesity. Obesity then is going to be less likely to affect your arthritis or knee pain. So it all links together. It's all just baby steps. Some of the other things we do is we work in our school systems. Throughout Navajo County, we offer a program called the Coordinated School Health. And out of the Coordinated School Health, we do a school health index. So we work with the CDC modular to do the school health index. There's several questions we answer over the school health index process. And to do that, we build a SHAC, which is a school health advisory council. And so it's a group of people who meet together, and all of that's flexible. They can meet once a week, once a month, whatever works into their schedule and routines. Then they come up with a school health plan. And that school health plan looks at what the strengths are for the schools and what the weaknesses are in the school. And then we improve the weaknesses. So we look at making a plan that's going to help with those weaknesses. And some of them could be things like making minor changes as far as having somebody walk the playground to look for any unsafe materials on the playground to help lessen, the risk of a child getting hurt. Manning a crosswalk with the staff that you already have to help kids cross the street more safely in a busy area. And then it could be as extreme in some of those weaknesses is bringing in Zumba classes or other health management for the staff and the people who work within the school.
That's awesome. How many schools have you been in?
So currently we have been in many throughout Navajo County. So 6. We're in the process of working with 2 that are about halfway through the process. And our goal for the next fiscal year, 2015-2016, is to start implementing in 3 new schools that haven't looked at the SHAC yet.
How long does it take for the school to go through the process? I know it depends on what they set their goals at, but what's the norm?
It usually takes the full school term to get all of it evaluated and processed and the next steps of improvement. Then usually the way we end it is sometime late May. We have developed the school health improvement plan, which we call a SHIP, because the SHIP is continually moving and it's continually growing forward. So we take the school health improvement plan, and over the summer within the health department, we work with outside agencies and then programs within the health department to see how we can provide the best resources. So as soon as school starts back up in late July, early August, whenever the school term starts again, we move right into making those implementations. And throughout the summer, we've been in contact with administration and the staff at the school, so that's just a new set when they start the school year. It's not a big deal because it's already been implemented.
Sounds like a pretty important resource and tool for these schools to be able to do that. They're not required to do it, but it's better all around for their administration and just the teachers and the kids to be able to get this feedback so they can improve themselves.
It is, and there's great benefit in it because not only is it just like a physical improvement or maybe a new salad bar in the cafeteria, but it also opens up plenty of doors for them to get lots of state resources as well as grant funding to help them move forward in their improvement plan.
It's definitely a good incentive
It is.
for these schools.
It's a great incentive. And there's not any real work to the schools. The health district, so the tobacco program and chronic disease program, we do 95% of that work. So the main work that we're asking from the schools is for their staff to attend the meetings when they're set and to just give their free and honest input. That's all they have to do.
That's awesome. You do.
a great
It's
program.
great when somebody does everything for you and you get these nice incentives.
I'd say we're a one-stop shop.
Now back to tobacco and how do you educate, or what programs do you have for the community and for people like to quit smoking or move on from that?
So we have changed a lot over the years. Right now what we do is with the Arizona Smokers Helpline that's in place, and there's an 800 number or an online that they can go to receive help to quit smoking. The 800 number, they have manned counselors. Most of those counselors have been smokers themselves, so they understand the process. They understand what the individual is going through as they're quitting their addiction. And they talk with them throughout various times of the day and events and activities to help them themselves understand why they're having a craving, or maybe they need some nicotine replacement. There's an assistance program. And the online is just www.ashline.org, or you can call them and it's 1-800-556-6222.
That's awesome. Good
It's
for
an
you.
easy one to remember.
Now, I know that I listened to a podcast recently, and they had a guy talking about how he said that smoking was no different than like overeating. It was still that craving that, you know, a lot of people look at them, oh, you need to quit smoking, you need to quit smoking. It's not hard to do. But then you look at other people and go, okay, stop eating sugar. And it's that same addiction. Do you see the same thing, or do you see how that lines
It has
in a way?
been studied and proven that tobacco is harder to quit than heroin. Some of those reasons for it are it's socially acceptable. If you were to leave here today and you saw some teenagers, for instance, standing on the street and they were smoking a cigarette, you might glance over, you might think, wow, they're really young to be smoking, but you would probably do nothing about it. Same scenario if you pulled out of here today, those same kids were standing on the street, but they were injecting heroin into their arm, you're probably going to call 911. It's socially acceptable. It's an easy drug to use, and we call it a drug because nicotine is the drug found in tobacco that causes you to become addicted to it. So we try and talk about how that is a habit, and it's breaking a habit. It takes 21 days to establish a habit. It takes 41 days to break a habit. So you have to be patient. And during that process, we talk about how important it is to recognize other habits that you may have and switch up your routine. So if you normally wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth and get in the shower first and then brush your teeth, because you'll see how hard it is to switch up a habit. We talk about how that habit moves into the addiction, which is where your body actually craves it. Once your body starts craving it, then that's where it becomes the process of quitting. And it's much harder, and they say it's harder than heroin and other things. And the reason for that is because one, it is socially acceptable, and two, it affects the dopamine of your brain, and that is the pleasure sense of your brain. So you have to try and replace that with something else. So a lot of times people think, if I eat a candy bar, I'm getting pleasure, so I'm not going to smoke, I'm going to eat a candy bar. And one of the things that we go through with them and we talk about, and then the Arizona Smokers Helpline as well enforces, is looking for healthy habits to replace smoking. So every time you think about smoking, or every time you think about having a dip of chew, get a drink of water, go for a walk, brush your teeth. There's several healthier choices. If it's a hunger issue, if you think you're hungry, snack on things like carrots or celery sticks, so that then you're not putting yourself at other risks down the road, but you're staying healthy and you're making healthy changes as you go through the process of quitting.
Do you notice people that smoking's a lot less now? I mean, because I know it's socially acceptable, but there's a lot of people that are vocally against it, that you see something smoking and you go gross or something. More people are starting to do that. I know I'm one. I try to like walk away around somebody who's smoking, especially if I have my babies in my arms. But from that, do you notice if there's less people having it's starting up? I know that there's already people who have been involved in it,
right,
but less people actually picking up that cigarette, with more education now out there, because the tobacco companies have to say what's in it, and the fact that it's not just the what is it? THM or whatever it's in there, is the fact that they put other chemicals like formaldehyde and other stuff in there that adds to how bad this is for your body.
So I think education plays a huge role on that, because this program has been in place since 1998. And so since 1998, we've been educating youth, kids in the school system, in the community, on the dangers of tobacco. We've been telling them the chemicals that are in it, what the harmful effects are, what it does to your body. So as those kids from 98 have grown and now are adults, we see a difference in their habits because they are aware of the chemicals and the addiction. Where back in I was born in 1970, my pediatrician smoked in the exam room. We didn't know about those addictions. We didn't know about the chemicals and the dangers. So where education has stepped in, I think it has played a big role on it. The other thing that we're seeing a really high flex is the trend of social gatherings, so to speak, as far as things like a hookah lounge. They aren't relating that. So when you fill out a survey or you answer a questionnaire, do you smoke on a regular basis? They answer no, they don't, because they're not associating that with hookah or going to a hookah party or a hookah lounge. So we've really had to shift gears into the younger adult version of educating them on hookahs and on e-cigarettes, because there's not a lot of research. There's no Food and Drug Administration regulation behind those. So we're slowly starting to get laws into place that help to protect our kids. But then again, it comes full circle back to the education. These kids know the dangers of tobacco, but there's no education on new products like the hookah and the e-cigarette.
Now, is it the same thing that they're smoking? I mean, is this substance a little bit different? I mean,
a hookah you are smoking, you do put different tobaccos, but it's processed differently and you're using water, so it's more of a vapor. And then e-cigarettes is an oil and water, so it's vapor. So a lot of times you may hear the term, instead of smoking, you hear the term vaping. So when kids are vaping, they're using something with a water-based substance. And they're assuming that that's better because it's steam. It's a steam substance. And that's where the Food and Drug Administration hasn't kicked in yet, because there's not a real way to regulate how many chemicals and how much nicotine is in those products, because it's going to vary depending on the amount that they're using at the time. So that is something that's being worked on, and slowly we are seeing laws passed, but at this point it's just on us, other programs like our program throughout the state, and then for that other states as well, to really just provide that education of anything that you're putting into your body that's not a natural substance, is not a healthy thing to put into your body, and can cause damages like in your throat. Any heated substance in your throat can burn your throat. Mm-hmm. So then we talk about the dangers and the harmful effects that those have on your body, even though they're selling it as maybe a nicotine-free product or a safer alternative from smoking or using spit tobacco. So.
And that's what they're pushing it as.
And that's what they're pushing it as.
Yeah, and
then they come in so many flavors that they're really attractive to the younger population. And they've, again, set it up around a social atmosphere. So you can go to hookah lounges, and e-cigarettes are socially acceptable everywhere, because policies right now read no smoking or no tobacco use. Well, an e-cigarette is vaping, so it's not a tobacco use. So you could smoke an e-cigarette in a movie theater. So now it's a process of going back to businesses and going into government entities and cities and educating them to tweak their tobacco policies to include things like e-cigarettes or vaping products.
Yeah, because they're still getting the nicotine, right? So it hasn't changed anything other than they don't stink as bad.
They don't. And the fact that they're water-based, and there is no real study or evidence behind how much damage is the excess vapor that somebody else is breathing, because there isn't that education or study yet. And it's in the process, and again, it'll take some time, but as we move forward, we just have to come back full circle and provide the education that we've been provided, that we know and that we have, as far as facts that we can deliver to the population.
One of the things that I do want to say, since we are talking about tobacco, is I saw the new law that they're bringing out to pass is where you can't smoke in a car with your kids.
Yes.
Duh. I just wanted to, why don't people understand you're in a car and you're hotboxing your kid with nicotine, you know, and you think this little kid with these little lungs that are developing, you think that's a smart thing to do? I mean, yeah, it should have been outlawed a long time ago. Same with, you know, you must have your seatbelt on and you must not smoke in a closed vehicle with your kids. That's something for outside or away from the house.
Right.
You know, I personally just met my a smoker who was actually the most considerate smoker I've ever met. And he came to my house, and the first thing he says, I have a bad habit, I smoke. And I went, oh, great, my sheets are going to smell like cigarette smokes. That's the first thing I think, and I'm sorry, this is my opinion. But he came in and he says, I just need something to put the buds in because I'm not going to put them in their flower pots. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. This is great because I get buds in my flower pots from people next door when the wind blows. They smoke outside, they throw it in their grass, it comes into mine. I'm like, oh. So he not only did that, but he went out into the street and he walked around the street to smoke. So it wasn't getting into my house. And you know, he wait out there and try to get the smell off. And I kind of appreciate that. And I understand that some people understand, they know this is a bad habit. And I feel really bad that they've put themselves in this position. But, you know, it is a nasty habit to where you can be considerate about it. It's not, oh, it's my right to smoke and it's my free will. Yes, but it's also my right to be able to breathe clean air. And if you want to smoke, that's fine. Go into your house and do it, or be away from children and do it. That just when it affects you. Don't let it affect the people around you if you're going to do it. It's the same with any kind of drug. You know, go away. I don't want anything to do with it. So, anyways, coming out with that law, I'm kind of excited about the fact that it'll be there, and it's sad that it has to be.
I think it's a great law. And then on the flip side of that, I see the argument of other individuals that you shouldn't have the right to enforce laws on me. This should be my right. I own this vehicle, you're not providing it to me. But the law is set to protect the minors within the car because they don't have the choice. I think, again, it's going to require a lot of education. And I think in anything in public health, or for that matter, anything where you're trying to get information out, it's really just communicating with the population, because the first thing you're going to get is this defensive wall. It's my car, I bought and paid for it, you didn't give it to me, you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do in it. So it's stepping over that barrier in a sensitive manner and saying, you're exactly right. It is your car. You paid for it. I shouldn't be able to tell you what you can and can't do in this vehicle. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to give you information that this is what's happening to your child in this car. Your child's breathing this secondhand smoke, the dangers of secondhand smoke, the dangers of it being enclosed in this small little metal box and going straight to them without any kind of a ventilation system or way for them to escape and get clean air. And by giving them that information, by giving them that education, you start to build down that defensive wall, and they start to come across and understand it more than if I just said, you can't smoke in your car anymore because that's the new law. Mm-hmm. So it's really going to provide a lot of legwork on our part, a lot of education on the part of the state, to be able to go to these people and look at it from both sides, and then meet in the middle with some kind of an understanding to them of why this law is being put into effect and what is the purpose of it. And really the purpose is, again, to prevent that young child now in 2015 from becoming a smoker in 2027. And that just seems so far away that our mindsets aren't meant to think that way. But we talk to parents or to babysitters or siblings who are older and using tobacco about how they're role modeling. They're setting the example for whoever it is watching them. Yeah. And then we give them alternatives. In the car, use a nicotine replacement, use a form of nicotine replacement. If you absolutely cannot quit smoking, switch to chewing tobacco, because there is no secondhand smoke damage from that. And then, you know, preferably our goal is to help you to quit and to do that in the easiest process. But it may be having you switch products until you get to the point where you're ready to quit. We don't just expect that on October 1st, we said you can't smoke in your car, so you're going to quit smoking in your car. It's really just building up to the process of providing them with education, getting them to understand why it's out there, communicating with them. Just why do you smoke in your car? What are the reasonings? Let me give you some other tips. One of the things based around quitting smoking that a lot of people don't realize, and you had kind of mentioned that they put other chemicals and other products into tobacco, which is this huge process. I could come back for another show and tell you all about the growing process. But when you're in the process of quitting, two of the things that they use, and not even, I mean, people go, well, I don't smoke a flavored tobacco or use flavored tobacco. They put vanilla and sugars in it. So when you're quitting, you crave sugars. You instantly want sugary stuff. And the vanilla is to affect your senses. Vanilla is a very mild scent. So one of the things that we will use for people when they're quitting smoking, and then now with the car thing, is hang those little yellow trees that are vanilla scented in your car, because the scent of the vanilla in your car will keep you from craving that tobacco while you're in the car.
That's amazing.
So I've had people who will carry it in their shirt pocket instead of their pack of cigarettes. And then when they're trying to quit smoking, they'll pull it out and smell it and put it back in, because it'll kill that craving. And then it's just another healthier form. And then we talked to them about using sugar-free candies and alternative things like that. Ways of breaking that hand-to-mouth, if you're a smoker, the hand-to-mouth habit of smoking. And just different tips of how to, break those habits, or what you can do in place of that until you've overcome the need for that nicotine. So,
now, if somebody needs to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that for any of your plans, whether it's the tobacco plan or the chronic disease?
So we have offices throughout Navajo County, Winslow, Holbrook, and Show Low. So I would say, if you're not familiar with your local health departments, become familiar with your local health departments, because one, that's where we are. And two, there's lots of other great services within the health department. But here in the Show Low area, Vicki Solomon is the program coordinator, and she can be reached at 532-6050, and it's extension 5520. I can be reached in the Winslow area if anybody's in that area and needs assistance or has any other questions, because I am the program manager, and then I can reach out to all of my offices. And my number is 928-289-6837, and that comes directly into me. There is no extension. I'm in the process of filling a new position, so she'll be on staff October 5th, and then she can also be reached at the 289-6837 number.
Well, Darcy, thank you so much for coming on the show. We could have a whole nother 10 shows about this stuff.
And talk forever.
Well, and it's great information, and I do appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you for watching Safe and Sound, and we'll see you next month.